Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, home of all things stock, investment, and personal finance related. Now for today's video, we're going to be introducing you to a brand new company on the channel. The name is PodcastOne. This stock is of particular interest to me given the line of work that I'm in, so we've invited management on to give us an update on the organization and their plans for 2024. Before we get into that though, please take a second, hit the like button, you guys. It's a big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join. And let me know in the comment section below if you've heard of PodcastOne before, if you're a subscriber or listener to any of their content, and if you're currently holding shares. Now with that being said, let's get into today's interview. Okay guys, so that's right. Today's video, a really special one. We were just talking before we started recording here about how influential podcasts have become in the world, and we have a special guest, the CEO, the executive chair of PodcastOne Incorporated, Robert Ellin, here to join us, talk a little bit about his business and how this thriving ecosystem really works. So Rob, thanks so much for being here, and we really appreciate your time.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for taking the time today.
Yeah, of course. You're always welcome. It's nice to get some new companies on the channel, especially media-focused companies. So to kick things off, because we've never covered PodcastOne, can you give us a little bit of background on yourself as the CEO, the executive chair, and what this company is all about?
Yeah, so I've been a serial entrepreneur, as you probably know. Built Digital Turbine, public company, APPS. Spent the better part of 8 years building it, and had enormous success with that one. And when I started this company, Live One, the parent company of PodcastOne, I started with the thesis that there was a missing link in music, which is that authentic voice of music that has been missing since MTV. And we started with a giant social message, which was that live music, right, was the perfect place to unify the world around live music. And live music, during live music events, festivals, concerts around the world, there is no racism, there is no anti-Semitism, there is no hate. Everybody loves each other during it, and it was a great way to do that. So if you could deliver a huge social message, you had the opportunity of building, again, a multi-billion-dollar business. PodcastOne, I was very fortunate to meet Norm Patitz. Norm was one of the pioneers in radio, built Westwood One to a $6 billion public company, and he was the first to rationalize and realize that radio was changing and it was moving towards podcasting. And really, there was no one better other than maybe Mel Karmazin at picking hosts, and not only picking the host, but actually being a creator-first platform focused on those creators. And if you focus on the creators and you give them a full 360 support, right, that real white glove support across marketing, sales, and so on, you had a unique opportunity. And so when COVID hit, Norm had the company up for sale for a big number. We spent a lot of time together, and we agreed to a couple of things. We agreed that we were both running creator-first platforms, ours focused on social media and music stars, his focused on podcasters, and they fit like a glove. If we could put those pieces together, we'd have one of the most unique, right, music subscription platforms out there. And we started with some of the rock stars of podcasting. Adam Carolla, who literally pioneered the podcasting industry, and many others, and everyone from Shaq to Mike Tyson to Jordan Harbinger. We just have an amazing team of podcasters across all genres.
Yeah, I took a look at your roster or lineup of podcasts before the interview, and it's definitely impressive. The other thing that resonated with me there is exactly what you said, the unifying effect of music and live music. It really does bring people together and spread that harmony that we're all looking for, right? So very powerful message, very powerful company. Now, you alluded to this a little bit, Robert, by bringing these organizations together, but my understanding is PodcastOne has multiple different revenue streams, a real diversified kind of revenue model. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we approached the podcast business, right, in a unique way, right? Starting with your advertising and sponsorship, right? And that's the brilliance of Norm Patitz and his team, including Kit Gray, the president of the company, and Stu McNamara, who was Howard Stern's head of sales, right? That team is focused on radio and those hosts and that advertising and sponsorship. We wanted to spread those tentacles, right? We wanted to think of what the next generation of revenues are, right? And what I said was, the first time I got interviewed, the day after literally after we bought it, Adam Carolla and I went on Fox Business, and we discussed, and I said, the industry is growing from 400 million to a billion, right? Now we're at 1.5 billion. It's going to 7 to 10 billion. And where is it going? And you know better than anybody, right? As we started this conversation, video is number 2. Video and podcast exploding, and we always called it podcast, right? The next component of it is live shows. You're seeing a tremendous amount of talent now taking these shows on the road and creating live shows around them, okay? And then there's the new revenue streams that I think are critical. Owning your own IP, taking that content and turning it into next generation content, right? Television shows, movies, right? And we've just announced our 5th show called Varnamtown, which I'm producing with Patrick Waxberger, one of the great producers, just won an Academy Award for Coda and produced Twilight and 20 billion of other films, right? We took a show, it's a story about a little town in North Carolina with 300 people in it. We launched the podcast next week, okay? And it's an amazing story. And without giving away the trade secrets of it, it turns out an REO Speedwagon, who you probably don't know who that is, great band, plane lands in this little town with 300 people, and everyone starts getting filthy rich, and no one can figure it out. But it turned out that Pablo Escobar had infiltrated that town, and the drug money was pouring into everybody. And just a great story, and you'll get that Ozark and so on. And I believe there'll be a bidding war for television and film for this. So that's our 5th show. We announced a show called Vigilante, which is already sold to a studio, and you're going to see more and more of that IP. And then last but not least is creating products with these super creators, right? We've been doing it in music. Now with podcasters, when you think about these audiences, these are super fans, right? They come back every week, right? Just like your show, right? And they come back every week. Could you create product? George Clooney and tequila, McGregor and scotch, and keep going down the line. Could you create a product, right, around those creators that fits their genre and their niche, and be able to go to their demographics, their audience that they're talking to every day, and they're selling them products every day, and own those products as opposed to just being an advertiser response to those products. I couldn't be more excited about where those revenue streams are going and where that's going. That's why I believe this industry is going to 7 to 10 billion.
Gotcha. Yeah, I love listening to this and hearing it. And as a person who's in this industry, that's exactly what you think of is alternate revenue streams and merchandise and cross pollination. But I think what you said at the start there, Robert, by creating that ecosystem that fosters the creator first, all of these derivative kind of down the road things really play nicely into that model. So really cool business, and obviously a lot of synergies with some of these additional revenue streams. Now, you mentioned on the top that you're a serial entrepreneur. I wanted to ask about some of your personal investments in the company, personal stake, insider holding, because I know that's pretty material with PodcastOne too.
Yeah, I think I'm one of the unique CEOs that my hands, my feet, and my mouth all go in the same direction. Right? I continue to buy stock almost on a quarterly basis. I've now invested $18 million in the company. Right? I continue to grow that position. As you've probably seen, I just announced a major buyback. I expanded my buyback from $2.5 million to $10 million. I've now bought back $4 million of stock. So we'll continue to buy back stock and continue to buy aggressively. And especially now that the company has now gone from a story stock to a value stock, to a growth stock. Now we're a value stock. We're trading at less than 1 times revenues. And our podcast stock, right, which trades on the PODC, is trading at almost half of revenues right now. So you're going to see us buying both the Live One stock and the podcast stock aggressively, buying back that stock and continue to do that. And you'll see myself and my board doing the same.
Amazing. And yeah, just to clarify, you guys, PODC, the ticker you see on screen here is the PodcastOne ticker, also affiliated with Live One, which is the parent company that we talked about with some of those other angles. Now, speaking of affiliation, Robert, the other thing I heard through the grapevine here is an affiliation with none other than Tesla, which is obviously a huge fan favorite in the retail investment community. So give us a bit of info on that one.
Yeah, this is, when I do my acquisitions, I always look for, a few chess moves, right, that I can plan for and be prepared for at the time of acquisition. So I bought Slacker Radio, and Slacker was a complete mess. $20 million in revenues, losing $10 million a year, $180 million invested into it. Very much like I bought Digital Turbine, had the same issues, right? We came in, we cleaned it, we restructured the business. This year, we just announced that our audio business will do 130 to 145 million in revenues and 20 to 25 million dollars of EBITDA, all right? And so with that, in acquiring Slacker, we looked at what did they have that was special. Number one is they had partnerships with every record label and every publisher. So we had everything that Spotify had, everything that Apple has, everything that Sirius has, right? Everything that Pandora has. What we had that was unique is we had this little partnership with Elon Musk at Tesla. And we went out to the facilities, and we saw the facilities, and my team has done a brilliant job of winning that account and growing that account and expanding the relationship dramatically. So number one is we won by pricing. We're 1/3 the price of Spotify or our competitors. Number two is we won by servicing, right? We out-service and outwork everybody. And number three is we were willing to white label, right? And that our brand wasn't necessarily the critical component. It was the product that we were offering inside of Tesla. So we offered those three components to it. And one of the most exciting things that's happened to PodcastOne is because of that partnership with Tesla, we're now the only exclusive podcast inside of Tesla. Right? So when you go into that car and you press your streaming button, you're going to see our channels and you're going to see all of our podcasts up. And you're going to see well over 100 podcasts inside the Tesla car as of about 3 months ago. And every month we're growing that number.
That's phenomenal. I didn't really understand the full makeup of that agreement, but having that exclusive distribution within the electric vehicle maker Tesla is obviously paramount. And what a relationship to have if you're going to have one, eh, Robert?
Yeah, it's one of those things that you got to be proud of, right? And you also got to be a little bit lucky in life, right? You know, we bought the company with that relationship, right? We've expanded that relationship and we've held on to it in a really unique way. And if you go online and you go look at their website now, they're marketing Slacker Radio the most aggressively they ever have. So we're now built into that connectivity package. And it really is the glue that keeps that connectivity package in place. And they charge $10 a month for it now, but you get all of your connectivity in it. I don't believe anybody that's buying a car on an average of $50,000 will ever not have connectivity in their car again.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the way to go. And we're seeing that across the world with Starlink and everything else, the importance of connectivity. Now, the next question, pivoting a little bit, you talked about the buyback program. My understanding is the business is cash flow positive. You said it's throwing off EBITDA. You've also got the buyback, which you upsized. Can you talk to us a little bit about the financial health of the organization and maybe any changes you've seen over the last couple quarters?
Yeah, this is the strongest the company's ever been from the balance sheet standpoint. We bought Slacker, we took on $50 million of payables. So there was a lot to clean up, right? This was a real effort to get there. And obviously a very different market, going back when we bought it in 2017, 18 than it is today, right? You can no longer focus on just growth. You have to focus on bottom line. So 2.5 years ago, I made the decision, almost 3 years now, I made the decision that we had to consolidate these acquisitions. We had to take costs out of them, and we had to focus all of our energy from growth to a combination of both growth as well as bottom line. And so I just announced our overall consolidated revenues will be 140 to 155 million. Huge jump from last year at 99 million, right? And our EBITDA will be between 15 and 20 million dollars, right? And that we will have from our operating businesses over 17 million dollars of cash flow. So you're going to see us. We just paid back $3 million of debt at PodcastOne, which is converted to equity. We just bought $4 million of stock, and we just showed a cash position of almost $11 million, which is the highest cash position we've had, probably ever in the history of the company. So we're going to continue to upgrade that balance sheet, strengthen the balance sheet, as well as also buy back a lot of stock.
Yeah, no kidding. And as they say, the numbers don't lie, right? So being able to produce those type of numbers, top and bottom line, is phenomenal. The other byproduct of putting up numbers like that, Robert, which I'm sure you're aware, especially in industries like media, entertainment, is it really grabs the attention of bigger companies. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about a potential buyout or exit optionality down the road. What is your plan with this company a little bit farther out?
sometimes you have no choice in it, right? I love what we're doing, right? I'm so passionate about what we're building. Just like when we built Digital Turbine, this is such a fun project and it's such a great team. We have a world-class board, one of the great boards probably ever put together in the public markets together. They've created over $100 billion in media and technology companies. Guys like Patrick Waxberg, who took Lionsgate up by $20 billion, and Steve Bornstein, who built ESPN and the NFL networks, right? So we're passionate about building it, but the market's brutal. Right, the microcap market is brutal. It's going to change, right? You're starting to see some life, some action hit back into it, and as everyone knows, this is where you get rich, right? You back up the truck when microcap companies are just decimated like they've been for the last 3 years, right? This is where you really can make your 10 to 30 to 100 times your money, right? And no one believed that when I told people in Digital Turbine in 2008. It was really quick and painful. We dropped from 600 million to literally 40 million from the time I skied from the top of the mountain to the bottom. This has been a slow, steady, painful 2.5, almost 3 years, right? So my team has proven they get into the bunkers, they outwork everyone, right? They're going to fight, they're going to make sure it works, and we're really excited about where this is going, and we're going to keep buying back stock. And the team is energized by what we've achieved and where we're going, and we couldn't be in a better position than we're in today. Where the company is heading.
Sure. Yeah, it definitely sounds like you guys are firing on all cylinders there. And this community, the retail focused, a lot of nano, micro, small cap, we've definitely felt the pain you were referring to. And as we all know, night is darkest before dawn is a saying I like to say there. But hopefully things do start to pick up. And the other thing I was going to say, Robert, is the fact that you've been able to upgrade your financial position so nicely despite this big pullback in microcaps is quite impressive. So I'll kick it back to you for any closing thoughts, but definitely have piqued my interest. I'd encourage any viewers, if you guys have specific questions, your shareholders, whatever the case is, leave them in the comment section below. Next time we have Robert on, we can definitely address those if anything specific comes up. But I'll kick it back to you for any closing thoughts as well.
Yeah, so just to wrap it up, we've just announced a multi-8-figure deal, the first in the history of the company. Diversifies our revenues again dramatically, right? It moves our subscription and advertising to almost equal, right? Which is amazing. We were at 90% subscription going back 4 years ago. We survived COVID. We lost all of our live business, all of our live streaming business, and we've been able to grow the business from pre-COVID to 38 million. Right, and 15 million of losses, right, to this year 140, 150, 55 million with 15 to 20 million of EBITDA and 17 million of cash flow. So this is a great time for the company. We're not done with acquisitions, right? We've acquired most of these companies, right, in a strong position right now. The industry, not only the public markets, but the microcap market in the private markets has been disrupted in such a unique way. And for podcasting, this is the first time in 5 years. This is a buyer's market for buying podcasts as well as buying podcast networks. So, don't be surprised if there's more to come. What I said is we have 10 acquisitions in the pipeline, in podcasting. And second, I said we have over 100 podcasts, 10x of any time in the history in the pipeline of podcasts that are going to move over in the near future to smaller networks. Because Spotify and Amazon realized that managing these small podcasts is really hard for them. Right? They realize they're a distributor and it's important for them to have the Joe Rogans of the world, but we're also partners with them, right? We distribute all our content on them across both Amazon as well as Spotify and Apple. I think it's just a unique opportunity right now for us to really grow. We just announced our 24th new podcast of the year. It's a record for the company. We said we're gonna do more this year. Our year end is March 31st. Don't be surprised between the next 2 months if we have another 4, 5, 6 podcasts and break 30 for this year. And I think next year will be similar. If we continue to do that, what I said was these podcasts are doing between 350 to 500,000 in average revenues for us. So they're already built. There's already traffic on them. Our traffic numbers are moved up. We finished number 11 this month, on PodTrack. And, we have high expectations to move up to the top 5 to 7 this year.
Well, we're going to be here watching and rooting you on from the sidelines as you guys continue to grow. maybe one day we'll get the McNallie Money Show on there with you and help your numbers out and see what we can do with this podcast as well. Thanks so much for your time today, Robert. This was really enjoyable. I love learning more about the media industry. Super cool to see how this company has come from its origin to where you guys are now, and really appreciate the time you shared with us today.
Great. Thank you very much. And any help on your podcast, come on to some of our shows. The best way to grow a podcast is to go on to other podcasts.
Perfect.
Right? You find that demographic and audience, and that's where our community of 180 podcasts really is so helpful to grow these podcasts.
Amazing. Well, how's that for a cliffhanger? You guys stay tuned. Robert, thanks again, and we'll talk soon.